So I mentioned I'd show every card. Let me finish laying out. I guess this will be our backdrop, but try to quickly get through all these less interesting trainer energy cards, but I'll still let you, for anyone who didn't see in the spreadsheet, this way you can pause and see all the grades. These will all be for sale at some point. The Charizard, as I mentioned at the end of the spreadsheet, will likely be going to PSA for a review. I do not think I'll have any luck selling it as a PSA 8 in the case that it's in, because I do not believe it to be in PSA 8 condition. I did get obviously complete set. You got all your starters there. Interesting, the tens mostly showed up in just one little chunk here, from Pikachu to, I think it's just Pikachu. These five right here. Sorry. Sandshrew, Staryu, Ponyta, Poliwag, Pikachu. Interesting how they just happened in that same chunk there. And I kind of mentioned too, sequential cert numbers. Clearly I'm breaking up the set. I don't really care about sequential cert numbers at all. But a lot of these non-holos do seem to be sequential, like they did it all in one submission. Be kind of interested to know, and maybe you could figure out with a little detective work whether or not they sent all these as just bulk. I mean, my strategy would have been to bulk the majority of the non-holos, but probably take the starters out and do those at economy or whatever. I mean, I'm talking a year ago, not today. Today, obviously, bulk isn't even an option, but I would have probably bulked out the majority, economy the starters, and then express or whatever the holos. One thing I kind of just skipped over too, but I'll show you quickly. Not a huge deal. The case cracked. I'm assuming it happened in shipping, or maybe it got dropped and he didn't realize, the seller didn't realize it broke. But I'm not going to give him a hard time over it. I mentioned in the spreadsheet portion, I'm an ideal buyer. When I spend 24 grand and something like that happens, I mean, you can argue two different ways. You can say, I spent 25 grand, everything should be perfect, you've got to refund me for that case. The way that I see it is, I spent 25 grand, one case is cracked, not affecting the card. I'll deal with that down the line and recase it at my own cost, or break it out and regrade it, probably, just because recasing, I mean, you break it out and regrade it, there's a chance you go to an 8. There's also a chance you go to a 10. It doesn't have to be on its own. With that whitening there, I don't think there's much of a chance you go to 10. But you just get it done quicker. You can include it in a full large submission. You don't have to just do a single card regrade submission. So I guess I'll just lay these out here first, and then we'll take a close look at Charizard. And kind of a shame, but again, being the good buyer that I am, I'm shielding the seller from having to go through the headache of dealing with PSA over damaging the most valuable card in the set. I need to do some searching on E4. I believe I have seen this exact damage before. I think that anybody who's been around a while, PSA actually posted a video that got them a lot of flack on their Instagram. They measure centering, or at least they used to measure centering, with a metal ruler. And there was a picture on their Instagram of them holding the raw card, no sleeve or anything, holding a metal ruler across a Michael Jordan. I think it was the Fleer 86 rookie Jordan. And people were like, that explains a lot of things. That explains the line across my card. That explains this damage I saw once. And they deleted it from their Instagram. If you want to search that out, you can probably find it on E4. But to me, and I asked before, please in the comments below, if you think this is a PSA 8, let me know. If you've got experience with damage like this before, if you remember an Instagram post or a thread. Nothing comes through the back that I can see. But that to me, I don't know if from the, I mean, there's two things here. One of it is that PSA could have damaged this and they graded an 8. At some point they damaged it. They didn't catch it. It stuck with the 8, even though it's maybe not deserving of that. The other angle, and is a distinct possibility, this could be factory wear of some kind or factory damage of some kind. Perhaps, I mean, it's a straight line, some kind of a roller wheel, some kind of a, I'm not sure, some kind of a machine indent. Again, feel free to comment below if you've got any suspicions for what it could be, if you've ever seen it before, fresh out of the pack. To me, I could go either way with it, but at the end of the day, since I'm not the initial grader, and since I bought I bought the grade, right? I mean, I saw the one photo, I didn't ask for better photos, I trusted PSA's expertise, and I trusted their ability to properly grade cards. I saw a PSA 8 Charizard, I'm like, okay, that's 10 grand. And I went on through the rest of the lot. So, one, do you think PSA did this? Do you think it came from the factory? And then two, given the fact that it exists, is an 8 the proper grade? Just to show you everything, the Holo, I don't know how well I'll get it to show up. There is a scratch there. So to me, that scratch coupled with, centering actually looks pretty good. But that is a fairly, let's see if I can get it. Yeah, I guess it's fairly faint, but there it is. I mean, that's as far as eye appeal goes, that's a fairly bad scratch. Like, it's on the Holo. It takes away from the presentation. I think if you look over the rest of the card, there's a little other scratches here and there. If you look for whitening, sorry, I don't know. Yeah, so that corner, I don't know how well I'll get this to show for you guys, but yeah, if you see the whitening there, whitening in the corner, I think that between the whitening and that scratch, I think this card would have been a PSA 8. So to me, having what is seemingly an indent through the entire card, Holo included, it does continue into the yellow border there too. I think that there is no grounds for PSA to try to argue that this is in fact an 8, regardless of whether it existed before they touched it or after they touched it. So let me know what you think. My intent is to send them an email tomorrow with, hey, here's this card, here's the photos attached, please advise on what to do. I just bought this card, I'm very unhappy, I don't think it meets your grading parameters. What do you want me to do? And if I need to send it in, $200, $300 service level, whatever the case, I am going to attempt to get them to regrade it properly. My thoughts are that this should drop to, I mean, a minor crease or edge ding turns like those Masaki cards into a 6. To me, this amount of damage, and let me know what you think below, I think this is a 4 or something similar. I think the eye appeal is really greatly affected. I mean, this is substantially damaged. I wouldn't be happy with this as a binder copy, honestly. if I was looking for, I mean, generally what I look for is like a clean hollow and issues on the back. I'd rather have a corner crease that you couldn't see from the front than just a line going through the whole card. So yeah, I guess this video is just turning into 10 minutes of this damaged Charizard card, but I don't know if there's other stuff going on in the back too. I'll have to give it a little closer look. I think that's just like slab issues or something, not on the card. Interestingly, the Clefairy also had it. I looked over all these cards pretty well after I saw the Charizard issues. So the Clefairy has almost the same thing. And then to me, and I don't want to, like, hopefully I'm biased. Let me know what you guys think. Don't just agree with me or don't just disagree with me to disagree with me. But given that two cards... Oh, that's actually interesting. I was going to say two cards in sequence. Maybe that slants the other way then. I was going to say two cards in sequence having the same damage. That makes me think that PSA did it. But now that I see that they, in fact, were not in sequence, now I might be leaning more towards improper storage from the guy who graded these, potentially. Clefairy, you can almost see one issue there and one issue there. It's really... I don't think Charizard... Now you can see my fingerprints all over it. Charizard I don't think has the two lines. I think it just has the one. But then Clefairy has these two lines through it. So I'm really at a loss here for what's going on. Is the PSA 7, did they account for it? Maybe they did. I see quite a bit of whitening there. But on Clefairy, let's see. I don't see a ton of other issues that would bring it to a 7. So maybe it's just these lines brought it to a 7. Maybe is two lines a PSA 7 and then one line's a PSA 8? I don't agree at all, but yeah, I guess I'm kind of at a loss. But where I stand on this is, if you want to go back to the spreadsheet and see the way the math worked out, again, I kind of stand to net, potentially, if all goes well, I stand to net nearly $14,000. The list price of Charizard is about 12 to 13. So theoretically, this can be my profit. I can just say, let me sell everything else. The Clefairy I'm a little iffy on. I'll probably send pictures of it to PSA and just say, hey, I also have this Clefairy. I mean, to me, this isn't a 7. This is like a 3 or a 4. But I'll say, hey, I have this Clefairy. I think it's a 3 or I mean, I won't say what I think it is. I'll just say I don't think it's a 7. I don't think this is an 8. Let me know. If anything, I'll probably just send in the Charizard and wait to see how I make out with that. If they say, no, it's an 8, then clearly this is going to be a 7. If they say, oh, we're sorry, it's a 4, here's a check for the difference between an 8 and a 4, and here's your Charizard in a 4 case, then I'll follow up and say, hey, here's this Clefairy too. If that's a 4, well, this would be a 3 or whatever. So, yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll start out with Charizard and say, let's figure out what's going on. I won't list the Clefairy yet. I'll keep that on hold. But everything else I'll list as is, because as I reviewed them, like some of these that were 6s, there's just a lot of hollow scratches on the Chansey, a lot of back edge wear. Which one was it? Hitmonchan. Yeah. Hitmonchan's a 4, and somebody like, I don't know what they did to it, but it's a 4. It's a true 4. So I went through every other card, and I'm pretty happy with the way they were graded. I think there's some decent cards, like fairly solid 8s, fairly solid 9s, some of them. So I'm just going to list and sell everything else as is. And hopefully the way that it'll work out, these will be my break even. Everything you see here, 100 cards. And then these two will be my profit. If PSA is honorable and reasonable, I think I'll get a check and a PSA 4 Charizard. and that'll be part of my profit. And then, I mean, Clefairy, whatever happens with it, isn't as substantial of a deal, obviously. But if and when PSA claims that this is an 8, I'll just have to go the route of PSA standing by this as an 8. I'll include a copy of the email correspondence in my listing, and I'll just say, hey, I'll sell this to you for maybe 8 grand, 9 grand, when market value is maybe 10, and see if and when people bite. I mean, taking a decent bit of risk here. I think a lot of people in my shoes probably would have opened a return case and just said, I don't want to deal with a headache. That's not as advertised, not as described. eBay would side with you. You'd return it. It would be a huge headache for the seller. What I'm trying to do here, and because there's a lot of room to do it too, even if there wasn't, I've always preached PSA are the experts. If and when there's issues with a grade, you take it up with them. That is, in my opinion, and again, I'm practicing what I'm preaching. I have no right to return this card because it's not the seller's fault. I don't want to assume that the seller maliciously hid this. They very well may have. They may well have shillbid, as I mentioned in the spreadsheet, but I have no proof of that. All I have proof of is that here's a card that the foremost experts in the hobby graded an 8. And I know that it, from what I understand, it does not meet that. So the only facts I have are what I'm going to go off of. I'm not going to push this back on the seller. I'm going to deal with PSA myself and see how I make out. I've asked for your guys' input several times. That's a fairly hot topic that comes up occasionally on E4 or Verbank. Or let me know what you guys think. If you bought this, if you paid 24 grand, would you return it over that issue with the Charizard? Or would you feel comfortable selling it as an 8? Would you feel comfortable that PSA would stand by and honor their guarantee and make it right? I think this is going to be an extremely long video, substantially longer than I had thought. But there's just so much here. It's a big collection buy, a big flip. There's just a lot of angles to come from, and then a completely unexpected wrinkle. I mean, literally a wrinkle in the card, a wrinkle to the whole process here, to the collection, on how I'm going to proceed with that Charizard. So I think it makes, I hope, I mean, a lot of people stick around through Nick and mine, our really long podcast, hour to 2 hours. So I'm hoping that some people come along for the ride with me on this video that's probably getting too close to an hour. And then maybe, hopefully within a month or two, I'll do a follow-up video that, one, will show the spreadsheet with all the sales that I've made and exactly what I've recouped out of my initial $24,400 purchase. And then coupled with that, I will also show the hopefully highly anticipated, potentially exciting, potentially infuriating result with PSA's financial guarantee. I think it'll make for some interesting content, however it pans out, and I'm looking forward to sharing the journey with you guys. So I appreciate it very much. Anyone who's stuck around for this entire thing, I will definitely make its own playlist. This will potentially be a 3-part series. I feel like it'll most likely be a 3-part series. So I'll call this part 1, and then we'll have the little playlist that you can click in each subsequent video to take you through the whole thing. Might be a couple hour YouTube saga by the time we're all done. So I look forward to seeing where this all goes. And I appreciate everyone who came. Feel free to drop a like and subscribe if you want to see where this all ends. I'm very optimistic on how I'll make out on the lot as a whole, but I'm torn. I feel like I give PSA a hard time a lot of times, and I have historically. I think that they'll do right by me. I think 90% chance that this ends up with a lower graded Charizard and then a reimbursement of the difference. And it's an unfortunate thing. The amount of cards that they grade, it's inevitable. You grade 20, 30,000 cards a day. Some amount of cards are going to have issues. Some amount of cards are going to have oversights. And that's part of the reason that grading a card of this caliber is $300 or $500 for a $10,000 card. It just has to be. If and when they have to pay out the difference between an 8 and a 4, they might be paying out $6,000. And say this didn't get discovered for 20 years from now. What if this card's 50 grand or 20, 100 grand, whatever it might be? Like the numbers just keep getting bigger, and the only opportunity that they have to collect money is up front. So that's part of the reason that we have to pay a little bit of money to kind of cover their insurance policy down the line. So I'm going to call that the end of the video, and I will catch you all later.